How should you think about the weaknesses of your team members as a founder? Hey everybody, this is Steli FD, and in this video today, I'm going to share a little bit of my philosophy in terms of coaching people out of their weaknesses, ignoring their weaknesses and doubling down on their strengths, or balancing both, right? So I had a friend of mine from Barcelona, a founder, who just hired a bunch of people. His company's doing really well, and he sent me a WhatsApp voicemail message talking about exactly this dilemma. He has a new team member that has proven to be amazing in some ways and really lacking in others, right? Will have real weaknesses in other areas. And he wanted to know, what do I do with this? Like, should I try to coach him out of his weaknesses and focus on those? Should I just double down on his strengths and work around his weaknesses, hire other people to take over these things, take those responsibilities off his plate? Do I take a balanced approach and try to coach both? What is your experience, Sally? How would you deal with this? What's your advice to me? And I recorded a voicemail that made me realize that this is advice that has accumulated over 20 years of entrepreneurial experience, and this is a tough word, entrepreneurial experience, and making a lot of mistakes in all directions. So I wanted to share that advice with the world and not just with my friend. So here's my approach to this today. So to give you some background and context, I used to really, focus on people's strengths when I hired them, and then focus on their weaknesses when I started working with them day to day. And I always try to coach people on overcoming their weaknesses. And not just their weaknesses, I always had a really soft spot for people that have incredible potential, that are, destined for greatness, but are not quite there yet, or are totally lacking experience, or have a breakthrough in their future that will make them all they can be, but there's something today that really prevents them from being the best version of themselves. Some true weakness, some true bad habits, something that makes them not be as awesome as they and I could see they were. And I've learned through a lot of painful experiences that trying to coach people out of their weaknesses is a really tough investment. It's very hard to make that a winning investment both for them and you. The reality is that you should hire people on their weakness, on their strengths, but you should try to uncover their weaknesses, and you should ask yourself, can I live with those weaknesses? Can this person, depending on what responsibilities they have, the work they do, their place on the team, can they get away with it? Is it okay if they have those weaknesses? And if the answer is not yes, today I would not work with that person. I would not make a job offer to that person. Because it's kind of like getting into a relationship with the implied hope that the person will change. And that's a very bad idea in my mind. People do change. I truly believe in the potential for change in human beings. I'm in many ways a living testament that people can change, no matter how fucked up they are, no matter how bad their habits are. People can change. But what I've learned is that it's incredibly hard, if not impossible, to time that change. And although I love to coach people, although I love to give advice, although I love to see the transformation happening for somebody, when I work with you and I pay you a salary and I need you to do a job today, and I can't afford that weakness, I cannot take that bet that you're ready to make the change today. And it has nothing to do with the person wanting to change, right? A lot of times you tell somebody, hey, I think you have this one weakness, and they tell you, yes, I know. I want to change it. I'm ready to change it. I have a 12-step plan to change it. I'm going to change it. And this shit always excited me, right? I was like, my God, he's a diamond in the rough, somebody that a lot of people would ignore because he has this weakness, but he or she is ready to change. And I think I can help make that change come about better, faster, bigger. So let's work together and let's take this kind of undervalued asset in the world as a human resource, and let's really fucking make it grow and participate in that growth. There's very little that makes me more excited than seeing people grow. But what I've learned through a lot of trial and error, and maybe this is just me being bad at this, right? That has formed this opinion. You should always take any kind of advice with a lot of salt, not just a grain. Is that people changing is not necessarily, one of the ingredients has to do with them wanting to change. Like one has to do with them having self-awareness that they have a weakness and the willingness and motivation to want to change it. These two things are absolutely necessary ingredients for people to change, but they're not the only ingredients. How many times have you met people that knew they had a weakness, they wanted to change it, and they didn't? Maybe never. And many times they didn't for many, many years until they had that one moment. And I won't go into too much detail on like all the ingredients for change, right? There's a lot of psychology at play. There's some luck at play. There's many, many factors at play. But we've all seen those people and we've all been those people. How many things can you think of in your life that you've known that there were months, years in some cases, that you knew you wanted to change and you were motivated to change, but you just couldn't change or didn't change? So just somebody telling me they want to change their weakness or work on their weakness or improve or grow is not enough anymore today. I want to hire people that I can fully accept the way they are today, that are valuable to my company and my team the way they are today, and on top of that have a ton of upside potential, right? So that when I start working with you, you immediately are crushing it, you immediately are bringing value, I immediately am grateful and excited and thankful, and the entire team has become better because of you. And even if you never change or improve, this was already a really, really good move, both for you and for us, and we're all succeeding together. And then on top of it, as a cherry on top, you have massive potential for growth, and maybe you're going to attack some of those weaknesses you have and you're going to change them and you're going to be even more valuable to the company. That's amazing, but it's not required. I'm not hiring people, I'm not working with people that are required, where they are required to change immediately or very, very soon, that are required to instantly grow into being able to create value or do the role well in the company. That is a lost cause. That is a very bad investment for you, for them, for the business, because it's going to be more frustrating to hire somebody like that that's willing to change or want to change and has got the promise and the excitement of you telling them you can help them, coach them to become better at some of their weaknesses, because you both are going to focus on these weaknesses. And if they're, for whatever reason, are not yet now ready to change and improve, you're going to be banging your heads against the wall. And the longer you do that, the more painful it's going to be to part ways. So what I told my friend is, hire people that have amazing strengths, trying to learn what their weaknesses are, honestly, and ask yourself, can I accept this human being fully the way they are today? If the answer is yes, work with them. Hire them. Have them join your team. If the answer is no, don't work with them. Don't hire somebody with the intent to change them, for them to become good enough to do their job. That's never going to be a good idea. In his specific case, I was lacking a lot of context, right? What are those weaknesses? Are those weaknesses things that don't really matter, that this person should not really have to own? Or are those weaknesses really significant problems down the line, right? It depends always on the position. What are, like, if you think about any certain person in your team, it is a good exercise to think about, like, what are the absolute must-haves in terms of capabilities and abilities, and what are nice-to-haves? So those weaknesses, do they fall in the must-have category or in the nice-to-have? If it's in the nice-to-have, find a way to accept this person, find a way around these weaknesses, hire somebody else to do this job, take these things off that person's plate, or just accept that this person's not going to be great at these things and be okay with it. If these weaknesses are in the absolute must-have bucket, you need to part ways right now. Don't start a coaching program. Don't put together a 6-month, we're going to be working on this. I'm going to be doing 3 calls a week and we're going to do a game plan and I'm going to sign you up for a Tony Robbins, seminar, and we're going to, invest all this energy and time in fixing you, changing you. That's always, always, always a bad idea. You might want to keep tabs on people like that. This is something I would recommend. I've written about this and talked about this before. When I see amazing people, you always want to buy an option to work with them for the rest of your life. So if I see somebody that's truly amazing, but they have a weakness that I can't afford right now, I might just make a mental note to check in with them, to follow up on them, to talk to them once a month, to see how their development is. And maybe, maybe they'll change really quickly and somebody else is already working with them and I'll miss out on that opportunity. And that's the cost of doing business. You're never going to get everything right, all the hiring right. But then it doesn't really matter to me. Okay, I missed out on this opportunity right now and you're working on some other team. I'm going to be checking on you every single month. I'll hire you maybe a year from now, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe 4. Eventually, we're going to work together. And I'm going to benefit from having seen your talent and both having seen your development. But that's going to be the exception, right? The exception is going to be somebody that you don't hire because they had some weaknesses or some inexperiences or some lacking abilities, and they instantly acquire that within a few weeks or months somewhere else and killing it. That's going to be very, very rare. 9 out of 10 times, you'll see that the person's going to take a really long time to acquire these skills or to overcome these weaknesses or shortcomings. And that development, that growth, they're going to do that on somebody else's dime, on somebody else's time. And once they've accomplished that level that they truly wanted to accomplish and reach, and you want them to reach, maybe that then is the right time to work with them. That's the framework that I use today. You need to fully accept people how they are and who they are. This goes for every person on your team, not just people you hire, but also your co-founders. Even more importantly, look at your co-founders and ask yourself, do I fully accept my co-founders with their strengths and weaknesses? Can I work with them fully with who they are today, even if they never change? And if the answer is no, don't work with them. Don't start a company with them. All right. I hope that this framework is useful to others. I've made a lot of mistakes on this because I have a real soft spot for it. And I hope that some other founder, you might see this and learn from my mistakes without having to repeat them and without having to spend, 15 years of making mistakes in this area before you arrive at a little bit of experience and wisen up when it comes to dealing with people. You can always get in touch with me directly, stelly@close.io, if you want to ask a question, if you want to share a story or a tactic. And make sure, if you have not done that yet, to go to blog.close.io, subscribe to our blog twice a week, highly technical advice for founders, startups, and sales teams. Until the next time, let's go get them.